You know, the Epic of Beowulf is one of those cornerstones of English literature. It's brutal, it's beautiful, it's packed with heroes and monsters. But to really truly get to the tragic heart of it, we need to look at it through a different lens. A powerful parable about fate, about hubris, and about the fact that all earthly power eventually fades. So, welcome to our explainer, Beowulf's Iron Anchor.
This single idea right here, this is the key to everything we're about to unpack. It's the lesson that both a humble blacksmith and a mighty king are going to have to learn the hard way. Even the strongest iron eventually yields to the relentless salt of the sea. I want you to hang on to that line. It's pretty much the engine of the entire tragedy. So let's dive right in with our central metaphor, the very thing we'll be using to view Beowulf's journey, the parable of the anchor. It's really a story about heroic and, well, maybe foolish defiance. Okay, so picture this. A small coastal village, and its fragile little harbor is protected by this absolutely colossal iron anchor that's just jammed into the cliffs. The villagers, they all whisper that it was forged by giants, way back in some mythical age. They believe it's the only thing holding back the sea's constant gnawing hunger.
Now, in this village, there's a young smith, and he becomes completely obsessed with his anchor. I mean, he spends all his time polishing its surface, and when he looks into its reflection, he doesn't just see iron. No, he sees the strength of his own will, his own power to bring order to a chaotic world.
And this is the crucial part. This is his hubris. He genuinely believes that his hard work, reinforcing the chains, polishing the iron, is the only thing keeping the darkness of the deep from swallowing them all. He's convinced that one man's courage can actually defy the natural order, that he can stand against word. That's the Anglo-Saxon idea of inescapable fate. Sound familiar? It should. All right, let's switch gears and bring in our hero to see how this all connects. We're turning now to Beowulf's first great test. But I want you to think of this as more than just a monster hunt. It's really a heroic attempt to forge human order onto a chaotic, primordial world. Now, what's so cool about this is just how clear the parallel is. You've got Beowulf, who shows up in Denmark like a force of nature, ready to restore cosmic balance. And then you have the smith, obsessing over his anchor. Beowulf defeats the shadow, Grendel, with nothing but his bare hands, a pure show of human will over the unknown, just like the smith polishing the chains. See? They both believe their own strength is enough to keep the darkness out.
But here's the thing. The poem is already warning us that this victory isn't the end of the story, not even close. Grendel, it turns out, is just a symptom of a much deeper, older evil. So yeah, the victory is glorious, but it's totally temporary. Because in the world of the heroic code, bloodshed always demands a price. This first triumphant act of violence, it's already guaranteed that more is on the way.
And that price shows up pretty quick. So this next stage of the fight, it shifts from being a simple monster hunt to a straight-up blood feud. We're now dealing with the weight of vengeance, and it's embodied by Grendel's mother. To really get what she's about, you have to understand this concept, Vergild. Basically, it was the man price. Think of it like a sum of gold you paid to a victim's family to stop an endless cycle of revenge killings. It was a way for society to try and control chaos.
Which of course leads to a pretty terrifying question. What happens when the one seeking revenge isn't interested in your gold? What happens when vengeance itself comes crawling out of the deep, demanding a price that you can only pay in blood?
And this moment right here just brilliantly shows the limits of human power. Beowulf goes down into her lair, which is basically a symbolic underworld, and his own sword, Hrunting, a pinnacle of human craftsmanship, it completely fails him. It just shatters. It's proof that our technology, our ego, it's just not enough to fight against these ancient, inherited sins. He's forced to use a giant forged sword, a power beyond himself just to survive.
So, what about our parable? What's happening with the anchor? Well, it's still holding, but that last victory came at a cost. The trip to the underworld has changed our hero. And if you look really, really closely at the anchor now, you can see its iron links are strained. They're starting to show the first tiny, microscopic fractures from time and stress. The decay has begun. So let's jump ahead to the final act and see how this all comes crashing down. 50 years pass. Beowulf is an old king now, and he has to face his final, inevitable conflict: fate, fire, and failure. All in the form of the dragon. Yeah, this really puts it all in stark perspective, doesn't it? The glory from his early victories leads to a long, prosperous reign as king. But 50 years is a long time.
The hero gets old, his strength isn't what it used to be, and all the while, that iron anchor has been slowly, silently corroding in the salty air. And then the dragon wakes up. And this thing isn't some monster born of malice. It's a force of nature. It's a symbol of death itself, something you just can't reason with or outrun.
And in that final battle, Beowulf is still driven by that old desire for individual glory, so he faces the dragon alone. And he wins, but it costs him his life, and it leaves his entire kingdom defenseless. In the world of our parable, the anchor finally snaps under the pressure of a storm that no mortal smith could hope to hold back.
So what was the prize for all this? The dragon's gold? The treasure he literally died for? This number says it all. 0. The hoard is buried right there with him, and it's just as useless to his people now as it was when the dragon was guarding it. Gold doesn't mean a thing if you don't have a protector to guard the society that owns it.
Okay, so if it all just ends in failure and ashes, why are we still telling this story more than 1,000 years later? Why is it still so powerful? Let's dig into the meaning of this tragedy, what we can call the beauty of defiance.
It really all comes down to something called the heroic paradox. To be a protector, a hero, like Beowulf, has to be aggressive and violent. But that very same aggression is what invites the destruction he's trying to prevent. His greatest strength is also his fatal flaw. His earthly fame, what they called luff, it doesn't last. The poem is showing us that no single person, I don't care how great they are, can stop the turning of the wheel of fate.
So, the whole point is this. This poem isn't about winning. It's about how you face a fight you are absolutely destined to lose. True greatness is found in the defiance of the dark, even when the dark is destined to win. That right there is the heart of the whole Northern theory of courage. Your nobility is found in the struggle itself, not in the outcome.
And that brings us back, one last time, to our smith and his anchor. The tragedy of it all is also where the beauty is. We don't admire him because he stopped the tide. Come on, that was always impossible. We admire him because he had the courage, the absolute audacity to stand on the shore and try.
And that leaves us with one final thought, a question that kind of makes this ancient epic feel, well, profoundly personal. Take a look at your own life, your own world. What's the anchor that holds it all together for you, and for how long?